Hello everyone. In our last two videos, we learned about two-dimensional arrays, jagged arrays, and three-dimensional arrays. Today we are going to learn about something really powerful that combines two things we already know, arrays and objects, into one concept called array of object. Array of objects. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly what an array of objects is, how to create one, how to assign objects to it, and how to access the properties of each object through the array. So before we dive in, let's quickly recall something important from our arrays videos. When we create an array in Java, it is automatically filled with default values based on the data type. For numeric types like int and double, the default value is 0. And for boolean, the default array is false. And for the reference types, the default value is null. Now here is the key point. An array of objects is a reference type. So when you create an array of objects, all its elements are automatically set to null by default. So null simply means this spot exists, but it is not pointing to any object yet. So let's think about what we already know. When we write something like a student, the name of the class, then a reference variable, assignment operator, new keyword, and again the constructor or the name of the class and semicolon. We know that st is a reference variable that holds the address of a student object in the heap, right? Now what if we need to store references to not just one student, but 3 students or 50 students? That is exactly what an array of objects does. An array of objects is an array that holds multiple references to objects, not the objects themselves. Think of it like a parking lot with numbered spots. Each spot can hold one car. The spot number is the index, the car is the object, an empty spot, one with no car, is null. When you create the parking lot, all spots are empty, null. You then park cars one by one into each spot. That is exactly how an array of objects works. Now let's see how to create an array of objects. First, let's create some variables. The first one with data type of a string, name, semicolon, int age, semicolon, and double GPA, semicolon. So now let's create an array that can hold 3 student reference. Let me write the main method first. Okay, student, square brackets, students, assignment operator, new keyword, student, and I said 3 objects. For example, whatever you need, you can write. So now we see the syntax is exactly the same as creating a regular array, but instead of primitive type like int, string, or whatever else, we use our class name, student, as the data type. So at this point, we have created an array with 3 spots, but all spots contain null. No student objects exist yet. Now let's create actual student objects and assign them to each spot. So alright, first let me copy the name of the array of object. It's better always to copy rather to type to avoid any error and mistakes. So the index, as you can remember it starts from 0, assignment operator, new keyword, and again the name of the class, and parentheses, semicolon. We can do the same for two other student objects, 1 and 2. So, as I said, we'll start counting from 0. 0, 1, 2. So each new student, I mean this part, creates a new student object, I mean the class, in the heap, and the array stores the reference to each one. Now let's assign values to each student's properties. How we can assign values. First, I copy the name of the array of objects. Then I will start from the 0, index 0, then dot. So the first variable, what is the first variable? Name. And then I assign the value to it. Like whatever you want to write, for example, Ali and semicolon. We can do the same for other two variable. So index 0. So we write the age of Ali. For example, Ali is 20 and its GPA is 3.8. And please remember to write this name of second variable and third variable. Now let me copy and paste it for the second object. Second object, its index is 1. Its name, for example, is Sarah. Sarah, for example, is 22. Its GPA of 3.5. Let me copy and paste it again. The third person is John. John is 21 years old, for example, and its GPA is 3.2. So we use the index to reach each object, and then the dot operator to access its properties. Look, dot operator. Now let's print all student details using a for loop. So for the for loop, first we write the keyword for, then parentheses, and then the curly braces. Inside the parentheses, we write our, first we create a variable int, for example, I, the name is optional, and then we start from 0, semicolon, and then we say I is less than the length of this array. For example, we don't know what is the length of this array, so first I write the name of array of object dot length. Then let's increment our variable I plus plus. And here we write our statement, system.out. So for example, I want first the name of the student be written. I use concatenation, and then I write the name of array of object, which is students, copy it, then dot, then a square bracket, and inside it I write the name of my variable, and then dot operator, and then the name of my variable, which is name. I copy and paste it for two other variables. Here I write age, here I write GPA, and here age and GPA. Now let me run the program. Yeah. So let me see. GPA John Sarah. Okay, here I didn't change the index. That's why I here have now 0 and 0.0. Let me run the program again. Yeah, we have name Ali, age 20. By the way, you can use like here part to dot, like colon. You can also use a space like this to make it just a little bit more readable. Nothing else. And you can also I'm sorry, not here. I mean here. You can put colon space, colon space, colon space. Now let me run the program. Yeah, this time it's much more readable. So that is array of objects in Java. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe the channel so you never miss a video. See you in the next one.